Okay, welcome to the first ever video ABST, Assaultive Behavior Safety Training class. The first thing we need to do, so here, let me explain how this is going to work. You're going to have to watch us. I have some volunteers here that I live with helping me do the moves. You're going to have to watch us do the move, pause the video, and practice it on your own. And then whenever we get a chance, we're going to do a live, I'm going to observe you through a live video at the end of the week. So use this video to practice all the moves, and you can let me know if you have questions. So the first thing you want to do before we start, make sure that you're in comfortable clothes. You don't want any jewelry or anything that's going to get damaged because we are doing some hands-on stuff. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is make sure that you're warmed up and ready to go. Get your body a little bit warmed up, do some kicks because we are going to be moving around. You don't want to pull any muscles when you're trying to do all these moves. Okay, so when you're dealing with a client who may be escalating and becoming aggressive or assaultive, you have to think about a couple things. So the first thing is, you have to think about where you are in space in relation to that client. If the client is coming at me from this direction, I have to make sure I'm not going to back into anything. I have to see if there's any objects around that client might be able to access that might be dangerous. And then you want to stand in a kind of a relaxed way with your feet just about shoulder width apart, your arms at your side, just open. You don't need to be doing like a bouncer stare down or anything like that. You want to be looking at the client right here in their torso because then you can see if their arms or hands are going to move anywhere quickly. And you want to be at least an arm and a half's length, their wingspan, the client's arm and a half's length away from that person who might be becoming aggressive. So I have my assistant here, and he's going to be our client right now, okay? So if this is my client that's becoming aggressive and he starts to come toward me, the best thing you can do and the least restrictive thing you can do is to get out of the way, right? So if he starts coming at me, I'm going to shuffle away from him, okay? So evasion or the boxer shuffle, you just have to stand with your feet shoulder width apart, and you're going to just shuffle away from the client who's being aggressive. So that's the first move that you have to practice. Okay, so here's the second move that you have to practice. This is my client. He's going to come at me with a closed fist. So you need to practice with somebody that you either live with or somebody that works in the residential home with you. So he's going to come at me like he's going to hit me with a closed fist, and I'm going to block. I'm going to do like a wax off to get his arm going in the other direction, and then I'm going to evade. You always want to end every move you practice by evading. Get away because that client might be coming towards you again. Okay, so he's going to come at me. If he's using his left arm, come at me, I'm going to catch with my left arm right here in kind of the meaty part of my forearm, do a wax off, and then I'm going to evade. Okay, so one more time. He comes towards me. If it's his left arm, I catch with my left arm, block, and move. Okay, so if he comes with his right arm, I do the same thing, block, and move. Okay, so here's the third move you have to practice. This is the block kick. So if this client is going to come towards me in an attempt to kick, I'm going to just turn so that he hits right here or up here instead of in my knees, shins, or anywhere else. So do a simulated kick. I'm just going to turn and get away. Okay, so that's the third move you have to practice, the block kick. All right, the next move is the low shirt grab. So this is if an aggressor comes towards you and grabs your shirt with one hand. So he grabs my shirt with one hand. If I don't do anything and he pulls, I'm going with him or my shirt is going to go with him. So what I have to do first is stabilize. So I just take one of my hands and stabilize above where he's grabbing. Then with my other hand, I make a C, and between his hand and my hand, I go down and get away. Okay, so one more time, he grabs the shirt, I stabilize, make my C hand, down and away. Okay. Now we're gonna do a high shirt grab. So this client grabs my shirt up toward the collar. So he's got a hold of my shirt here at the collar. So what I have to do first, again, if I don't do anything and he pulls, pull, I'm going with him or my shirt is going with him. So I have, as soon as he grabs, I have to immediately stabilize. Okay, so you can see I put my hand on top of his hand. Now at least it's stable. If he's pulling me around, I'm going with it, but it's stable. My shirt is stable, the grab is stable. So now I take my other hand, put it on top, and I press down to open up his grasp and go down and away. Okay, so you want, this is the person grabbing the shirt. You want to put your both of your hands on top, open up their grasp, and then go down and away. Okay, so he's got a hold of my shirt. I'm going to stabilize first, open up his grasp, get down and away. So that's the move, that's the next move you have to practice. If somebody grabs with two hands on your shirt, with two hands, I still have to stabilize. I may not be able to get out without help, but at least I have to stabilize because I can just now like stabilize, hey, I need some help, okay? And if I can open them up, I could try to get out, but it's really hard if someone has both hands. You just have to stabilize, okay? So practice that with the one grab, open up the hand, and get out. The long hair grab. Okay, so my client is gonna grab, come here. My client is gonna grab me by the hair. I have long hair. If you don't have long hair, you're gonna do this in sort of a simulated fashion. You have to demonstrate it by kind of like going like this to pretend like you have hair and get out. So in the case of long hair, he's got a hold. The first thing I have to do is stabilize. So I grab above. So now if he pulls, he can only make really any movement from here to here. Then I take my other hand in between. I make my C hand again in between and go down and away and evade, get out of there. So that's the long hair pull, okay? So practice that one. The next one is the short hair pull. Okay, short hair pull. So we're gonna just kind of simulate. He's gonna make a fist like he's pulling on my hair right here. Okay, so he's got a hold of my hair up at the top. There's nothing for me to grab or stabilize, so I have to do the same thing like the shirt. Immediately stabilize the hand on top of the head. Now you can see I'm going with him instead of my hair going with him. Now I'm gonna use my other hand to put some pressure on top of his hand, open up his grasp, and get out, down and away. Okay, so now we're gonna do arm grabs, okay? 1 and 2 arm grabs. So grab my wrist with one arm, all right? So he's got a hold of my arm. The first thing I have to do is figure out where the weakest part of his grasp is, and that's right here where this opening is between his thumb and his fingers, okay? So I kind of get myself set up in a little stance here. If he grabs me, my aim is to try to use this open part to get down and away. I'm going to use my own body's leverage and momentum to get out, okay? So wherever that opening is, you're going to go down and away while you're evading, okay? So grab me in a different angle, grab with the other wrist. Okay, so if he grabs a different way, I do the same thing. Wherever that opening is, use your body while you're evading to get out. So that's the one arm grab. move is the 2-arm grab, okay? 2-arm grab. He's gonna grab me with both of his arms, okay? So now what I have to do, the weakest part of this grasp is here, where his thumbs are, okay? So what I'm gonna do is take my hand and make a fist with this hand, grab my hand, and I'm gonna go up and away using my own leverage and momentum as I'm stepping out of this, okay? So 1, 2, 3, up and away, and evade. Okay, one more time. Okay, I made a fist with my own hand, and I'm gonna go up and away. Try not to hit the client or yourself when you're doing this. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. So the next move is the front choke. So he's going to do a simulated choke. So the main thing I want to do is make sure that I protect my airway and I release his grasp. So to protect the airway, I tuck my chin. That's the first thing. So tuck. To release his grasp, I'm going to shrug my shoulders so that it opens his hands up. So shrug, arms up, and spin away. All the way around so that you can see him. Okay, so one more time. Okay, remember, protect your airway by tucking. Shrug your shoulders to break his grasp. And spin and get out of there. And make sure you end up looking at him in case he's coming back. All right, the next one is the rear choke. So he's going to choke from behind this time. No? Like this, okay. So same thing. I'm going to tuck my chin, shrug my shoulders, arms up, spin just enough so I can see him, and get away. All right, now we're going to practice the headlock. Okay? So this one is a little bit weird. So we'll go through it a couple times. Okay, so he's got me in a one-armed headlock, all right? So the first thing I'm going to do is tuck my chin right into the crook of his arm right here. Tuck your chin. Then I'm going to take my hands, like little L hands like this. One goes here, one goes here. And I'm going to go up, turn out so that I end up behind him. It feels a little bit weird. Come here. Because you're going to want to spin the other way. But you want to go, so tuck, L hands, up and over, get behind him. All right, next we're going to do the bite. So the way that the bite works, come here. So we're going to do a simulated bite. Your client or whoever is portraying the client is going to grab your arm with their own hand, and then they're going to pretend bite their hand. So he's going to pretend bite his own hand, right? So that's our simulated bite, like he's biting my arm. So bend down a little bit. Okay, so the first thing I have to do with a bite is stabilize. So I'm going to just be aware, I'm going to like do this. You don't want to like be too like teeth into your hand. The first thing I want to do is stabilize. So I put my hand on the back of their head and I push my arm inward. So you have to fight the urge to just rip your hand out because you don't want your skin to go with if that person is really biting down hard. So you have to stabilize the back of their head, push your arm in toward their mouth. If they still don't release, you cover their eyes, you plug their nose, they have to breathe, and you roll out. Okay, so one more time. He's going to do a simulated bite. I'm going to stabilize the back of his head. My arm goes in, cover his eyes, plug his nose, and roll out. So that is the bite move that you have to demonstrate. All right. Okay, so the next move is going to be a one-person escort. So we use this move if we have a client that might be engaging in problem behavior in like an unsafe area, like a parking lot, for example, or when you're crossing the street. Say a client starts to self-injure while you're crossing a busy street. You can use this move to escort them to a safer location. So come on over here. So here's my client, okay? So he's in the middle of the street, and let's say in this case he just stops. We're in the middle of a busy intersection and he just stops, and I need him to move because the light is going to change and there's going to be cars coming. So I'm going to say, come on, we got to go. He doesn't move. So now I say, okay, you can go on your own or I'm going to help you. Okay, he doesn't go. So now I'm going to do a one-person escort. So the first thing I do is I have to put my arms right under his arms like a little forklift, and then I put my foot right between his legs, and we just do kind of a bump and move. And then if he starts walking on his own, then I can release and we can just keep walking across the street. If I start to do the bump and move and he just drops, kind of like goes dead weight, then I'm there to kind of stabilize and let him go safely to the ground. Now I go to plan B to stop traffic or whatever it is I need to do. Okay, so that's the one-person escort. Okay, so the basket hold escort. I'm going to show you how to get him in a basket hold first. So the first thing you do is you take your arms and you're going to go in a downward motion, kind of like a squeegee motion, because so down and in, so that his arms automatically cross in front of him. So let's look from this angle. Okay, so down so that his arms automatically cross in front of him. So that's how you start it out. Then you go straight down and grasp his arms right above his wrists. Okay, now from here you have to tuck up and make sure that when you tuck, you get this lock. I don't want it to be like this. It needs to be tucked like that under the elbow. Okay, so then from here, make sure that your head is tucked down because this person could be butting their head. Tuck down, and now we can walk to whatever location we need to walk, or sometimes we go backwards, okay, if it's safe to do so. So as long as you're moving through space, this is considered a basket hold escort. Just make sure your head is tucked and that you're right up against the back of the client's body to stabilize. Okay, so next I'm going to show you the basket hold escort to the ground. So the same move as before, but this time I'm going to demonstrate how you escort that person to a seated position. The most important thing to know is that once they're in a seated position on the ground, you have to release. You cannot keep them in a basket hold and you cannot put any pressure on their chest or back. So as soon as you get them on the ground, you release. So I'm going to show you basket hold escort to the ground. All right, let's see what's the easiest way to do this. All right, so you use your squeegee arms in this kind of motion to get his arms to cross in front of him, grasp right above the wrists, and tuck up into the locked position. Okay, so I'm going to turn this way so I have enough space. Once you're in this position and you're tucked right up against their back, I'm going to put my foot right between his 2 feet. I've got this foot all the way back, and I'm tucked right up against his back. From here, I'm going to use my front foot to take one big step back all the way to the ground to place him on the ground. So here's what it looks like. Okay, so one big step back all the way to the ground, place him on the ground, and evade. As soon as you get him down on the ground, you have to get out of there and make sure that you're not putting any pressure on the back or the chest. Okay, the next move is the 2-person escort. So I have a client with me and another staff. Okay, so come here. This is the client. All right, and this is my other staff. Okay. So if I'm this person's staff that's mainly working with him and he's being unsafe enough that we are required to escort him to a safer location, or maybe he's too big for me or her to basket hold him as one person and do an escort that way, then we can use this 2-person escort. So I'm going to say, hey, Whitney, I need help with a 2-person escort. She gives me a nod or a thumbs up, and then we go in. I say 1, 2, 3. We both grasp just above his wrist on his forearm. Then we grab our own wrists. Then we're going to tuck back and up as much as we can, and then tuck our hips right up against his hip. So if he wiggles his hips, we're all stabilized and there's not a lot of space that he can move. Now we also have to make sure not to get hit with a headbutt. So you kind of have to like put your head outside. And I'm going to say, Whitney, on the count of 3, we're going to walk straight ahead to the calm room. Inside foot first. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. We're going to escort him. When we get to that space that we're going to release, we're going to say release on the count of 3, and you take your outside hand and put it on his shoulder. 1, 2, 3. And we evade. Okay, so that's the 2-person escort. Okay, so the next move is the 2-person assist to the ground. So I'm going to say, hey, Whitney, I need help with a 2-person assist to the ground. We get into the same escort position, grasping above the wrist, grasping your own wrist, tuck and up. Now with our inside foot, we're going to step that in and behind his feet. We're going to just scoot up a little bit so we have enough room to place him down. Let's see. Make it. Okay, so you can see. All right, so our feet are on the inside. We're going to put our outside foot back a little bit. And on the count of 3, we're going to step all the way back to our knee. 1, 2, 3, and place him down on the ground. Okay, now once he's down, we put our hand on his shoulder and we get away. Okay, so that's the 2-person assist to the ground. So the next move is just the basket hold containment. Okay, so now these are not considered escorts, they're considered containments or restraints because I'm just going to hold him and immobilize his arms and hold him in place. So remember, we're going to do the squeegee arms down so that his arms naturally cross in front of him. And now I grasp right above his wrists on his forearms and I tuck up and make sure that I have those elbows locked, okay? So now I just stay here, tucking my head, making sure I'm not going to get head-butted, and hold as long as I can safely do so, or until he's being safe and I can release. Okay. So now we're going to do a basket hold chair containment. So come on over. I'm going to use my squeegee arms and I'm going to get him first into the basket hold containment. So cross his arms, grasp above the wrist, tuck and lock. Okay, while maintaining my head tucked so that I don't get any headbutts, I'm just going to guide him over to a good steady chair, set him down in the chair, and maintain the hold right here. I'm tucked so that I don't get any hits with the head. The biggest thing here is that you cannot put any pressure on the back by folding him over in any way. So I just keep him upright, maintaining the hold until it is safe to release. All right. Okay, so the next move is the 2-person standing containment. So it's a little bit different than the 2-person escort because we're just going to maintain a containment in one spot. So for this one, I'm going to say, Whitney, can you help me with a 2-person containment? And so on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to go with our outside arms, grasp right above the wrist, and then I'm going to take my inside arm and put it kind of up underneath his armpit. And now Whitney and I are going to go back to back. All the way back to back. All right, and we just hold here as long as we can safely do so until the client is safe and we can release. And if he starts kicking his feet or anything that is unsafe with his feet, we can go on the count of 3, rotate. Whitney's going to go backwards towards me, 1, 2, 3, and we just rotate around. Okay, and then from here, let's rotate back the other way. From here, if we need to escort him, or if we're no longer able to maintain the hold, but he's still being unsafe, now we pass the arm over, grasp with your inside arm, take your outside arm, grasp your own wrist, and get into that escort position. Tuck, 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 tuck the hips, tuck the hips. There we go. Now we're ready to escort. Okay, so this last move is called the two-person seated containment. So we'll tend to use this move if we are in a van, or if you're at a park and there's a safe bench to do this on, or if you have the couch in one of the residential homes. So first, you're gonna have two people on either side of the client, and you just use the same technique as you do for the two-person escort. So we're gonna go grasp the just above his wrist, grasp our own wrist, tuck and back. And now, if we need to, we can also put our leg over the top to prevent any kind of dangerous kicking or anything like that, but you do have to watch out for any kind of headbutts, okay? So this is just to contain someone if you're in a seated position. All right.